just in, and they've been talking about it for a while. According to our Adrian Wojnarowski, the Celtics are in the process of finalizing a trade that will send Avery Bradley and a future second-round pick to Detroit for big man Marcus Morris. The Bradley deal creates the salary cap space needed to sign free agent forward Gordon Hayward to a 4-year, $128 million maximum contract. That's a lot of money. Our NBA insider, Brian Windhorst, who makes just about that, maybe a smidge less than Gordon Hayward, joins us now here on SportsCenter, coast to coast. So let's talk about gains and losses in terms of this deal. How big of a loss is this for the Celtics?
You know, this feels kind of like one step forward and two steps back, or two steps forward, I should say, and one step back for the Celtics. Getting Gordon Hayward is awesome. It really will bolster them, add the kind of scoring punch and multi-dimensional player that they really need. But to make room on their team, to give away Avery Bradley, and, you know, Marcus Morris is a quality player, but he's a step back from Avery Bradley. He's the exact kind of player you need to compete in the postseason. Two-way player, great defensive player on the perimeter. Nobody likes seeing him 4, 5, 6 games in a row. Having to trade him is a bit of a downer for the Celtics. And, you know, you wonder, would they have been better off going ahead and making him available to the Indiana Pacers with a couple of draft picks to maybe try to trade for Paul George? Because this is the type of player that maybe would have been better off in that type of trade. And that's one thing that you'll always wonder going forward for Boston.
Yeah, Brian, the more and more we talk about this, I almost feel as if, and not that we have to discuss it now, that I feel as if that Paul George Thunder deal was long in the works, because you're right, it just doesn't make sense on so many different levels in terms of assets they could have received. Back to talking about the Celtics, what other moves can we expect to make them, can we see them make?
Yeah, they don't actually have enough space yet with this trade. So they're going to have to probably waive a player, not a player who's going to be in the rotation, probably Jordan Mickey or Demetrius Jackson. But again, I wonder if instead of cutting players, giving players away that have value like Avery Bradley, leaving first-round picks overseas, what they're going to have to do to make room here, I wonder if they could have made a deal with the Pacers. And it's not just a question for the Celtics, Carrie. It's also a question for the Pacers. The Pacers could have waited until the last couple of days to trade Paul George. The trade to Oklahoma City would have still been there if they wanted to make up their backup deal. This is one of those things that as we look into the future and we wonder, you know, how these things unfold, you know, could Cleveland have maybe gotten in and gotten Paul George with a different offer? What happened with Paul George could end up being a big moment for a whole bunch of different teams in their future in the NBA.
Yeah, it's always these things that we think about and we dismiss them, but they really do change the landscape of how we move in the NBA. More specifically, speaking of landscape, talk to me about the East. What's it looking like there?
Yeah, well, so we've seen these teams take a step back. You know, Atlanta almost certainly is not going to match the offer sheet that's been given to Tim Hardaway Jr. by the Knicks, which means they're going to lose, you know, most of the core of their roster, so they're taking a step back. Indiana and Chicago traded all-stars. They're taking a step back. You know, this is Detroit giving up, you know, probably on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope by trading for Avery Bradley. Maybe that's a wash. Maybe it's not, depending on how you look at it. You look at a team like the Cavs, and I know that they haven't done anything, but their grip on the East is only tightening. Certainly the Celtics have made a major move adding Gordon Hayward, but losing Avery Bradley mitigates that somewhat. Yeah. So the Cavs have to feel pretty good about themselves. And even the Miami Heat, they missed out on Gordon Hayward, and they ended up signing a couple of role players. But because some teams that made the playoffs in front of them have taken a step back, the Heat should be able to benefit from these moves too.
Brian, let's go back to what you just said. You know, they give Gordon Hayward, they being the Celtics, but they have to lose Avery Bradley in the process. So in your opinion, that mitigates the signing of Hayward? So how do you make that choice? Obviously, the front office, the Boston Celtics front office, saw more value in Hayward than they did Bradley.
Yeah, they got thrown a curveball here because the salary cap came in a couple of $1 million less than they expected, and that essentially cost them Avery Bradley. Had they been able to have a couple more million, they might have had some more flexibility. They also lost Kelly Olynyk, who, again, you're going to take Gordon Hayward over Kelly Olynyk, but they had to waive his rights to get him. They're not going to be able to sign Jonas Jerebko. And now Avery Bradley is gone. There's quite a few rotation players they've had to say goodbye to make this deal. So typically the reason free agent signings are so great is you don't have to give up anything.
Yeah.
They're in addition to your roster. But the Celtics have had to cut off some pieces to make this work, and that affects the way you look at their team going forward. They're still a net positive, but not as good as they would have been if they had been keep the whole team that was #1 seed last year together.
No, you're absolutely correct. You think about Avery Bradley and how, like Kyrie Irving said, he's the toughest for him in terms of defense. So we'll see what happens. They seem to know what they're doing there. Brian Windhorst joining us here on SportsCenter Coast to Coast on this Friday. We appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy your weekend if you can. David, I'll send it over to you.
All right, Trey, let's continue with this trade. We bring in Tom Haberstroh and George Sedano. George, you heard what Brian said. What do you make of this move by the Celtics, something they were sort of forced into?
Yeah, I don't necessarily love it, David, because Avery Bradley masked a lot of the defensive deficiencies for Isaiah Thomas. You're talking about a team that, when they were on the floor together, IT and Bradley, they were a pretty good defensive bunch, and a lot of that, or most of it, if not all of it, was because of Bradley. Their defensive rating with Isaiah Thomas on the floor and Avery Bradley off was almost 113. That's not good. I'll just tell you that. I know Tom could reassure us with that as well. But that, to me, is the big issue here. I don't love it because defensively I think they've become a worse team. As Brian pointed out earlier, it's a net positive because of Gordon Hayward on offense. But defensively, they're going to struggle a little bit, I think, particularly on the perimeter.
Obviously, they only had Bradley for one more year. He was going to command a huge payday. There are financial concerns as well here, Tom, but if you look at it just in a basketball sense, what kind of a loss is this for Boston?
I don't think it's a big loss. Honestly, the way the NBA is going, you need big wings, and Marcus Morris fills that role. They have a ton of big wings. They have a surplus of that. When you go against the LeBron James and the Cavs and the Golden State Warriors, you need those guys. Avery Bradley is an overrated defender. His reputation far exceeds his on-court value. I think when you look at the numbers, actually, Marcus Smart in place of Avery Bradley was far better in that starting lineup for the Celtics last season, plus 16.8 with Marcus Smart in place of Avery Bradley. And the defense was better with Marcus Smart. He obviously needs to improve his three-point shooting, but make no mistake about it, the Celtics last year in the regular season were 17-10 without Avery Bradley, winning 63% of their games. I think they're going to be just fine without him.
All right, there you go. A different take from Tom Haberstroh, who's looked at the numbers. Tom,
it's like first take all of a sudden on
here. Here we go. What, George, you want to counter that? I mean, he's basically saying that Avery Bradley's overrated.
Yeah, I just don't think that all the metrics will give you the exact picture here when it comes to Avery Bradley. I mean, Brian pointed it out. Guys don't want to go up against him. I've talked to a lot of guys in this league that play shooting guard, and they will point to Avery Bradley as their toughest matchup night in and night out. So the metrics may not show it all, but the metrics do show they're worse on the floor when Avery Bradley was off it, regardless of who his replacement was at different times. So I don't love it. I don't love it. But you know what? Numbers never lie for Tom, so I get it.
Hey, Tom, you also got a piece up right now on .com where you compare the potential Western Conference All-Stars to the potential Eastern Conference All-Stars. Not surprisingly, the West comes out on top. But explain to us just how dominant the West side is in your calculations.
I mean, when you look at the players on the Western Conference, I mean, they got Jimmy Butler, they got Paul George, they got Paul Millsap. They have every single one of the all-defense team members, all 10 of them except for one, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you look at actually the player value that you see in the Western Conference is so stacked that they could field two teams, not just one, that is better than the Eastern Conference All-Stars. So I looked at the numbers, and yes, the player value, if you eliminate the top 12 Western Conference players, if you just look at the next 12 Western Conference players, the next 12 best, it's actually more player value in that group of 12 players than the best 12 players in the Eastern Conference. Now, of course, they got Giannis, they got LeBron James, Kyrie Irving. But if you look at that West roster with the B team, you have a ton of stars, especially coming off the bench. When you have Rudy Gobert coming off the bench, that is a stacked Western Conference. So 6 more wins of player value on the Western B team than the Eastern A team, just to put in perspective how stacked the West is now.
All right, so 13 through 24 in the West is better than 1 through 12 in the East. George?
Yeah, listen, I'm with him on his first group. Team A, in his article, would destroy any East All-Star. But Team B, look, the starting five, I'll give him, it could be competitive. But when you're getting down to the point where the reserves are Ricky Rubio for Team B out west, yeah, I'm not necessarily feeling that, especially when you have a guy like LeBron James on the other side. So in our mythical battle of Team B West versus Team A East, I'd still give the East a chance to win that.
All right, there you go. 1 versus 2, I guess you would have to call that, the West versus the East. And that's Tom and George giving us their thoughts on this sort of potential, if it ever came to it, matchup of the All-Star teams, 1 and 1A. Thanks, fellas. Gary?
You got it.
Hey, folks at home, what do Nicki Minaj and Odell Beckham Jr. have in common? There's a lot, but it's a guy, and he's on our show. You don't want to miss it. Old news, CP3's a rocket. New news, the guy who broke the deal, well, apparently he's a champion of sorts. David will explain. Also, we are just 3 days away from the most star-studded home run derby.
Rockets hoping to force a Game 7.
Kawhi Leonard being out is huge.
Who picks up the slack? Who helps fill in the void? Here's Simmons. Drives on Ariza. Goes down the lane and finishes. Jonathan Simmons. Patty Mills finds some room. Nails another 3. Spurs dominate here in the first half, even without Kawhi Leonard. Aldridge turns, fires, hits again. Unstoppable.
LaMarcus Aldridge, when locked in, is an elite player.
It has been a nightmare game for James Harden.
This is as bad as I've seen him play.
Bad pass stolen by Mills. A magnificent season ends in a rough way.
I was surprised that they didn't put up a better fight.
San Antonio defeats Houston, a total domination.
Rockets GM Daryl Morey joins us now. Dale, you guys won 55 games last year, got past the first round, lost to the Spurs in round 2. There was the 39-point loss to finish your season. What was it like for you just watching that game?
You're going to bring that up, huh?
That's what I'm starting with, Daryl.
Can't we talk about the Chris Paul trade or something?
We'll get there.
Okay. Obviously a tough ending. You know, we wanted to keep going last season, but you know, it was difficult ending to the season. But you know, we're regrouping, reloading, and going from there.
Going into this off season, what did you feel like you needed to be addressed to make your team better?
Well, we're obviously chasing a juggernaut in Golden State, and there's a bunch of other good teams, the Spurs as well. We really felt like we needed to add another top-line player, and that's why we went after Chris Paul. That's a pretty big fish to get into the boat. Walk us through this, Daryl. How did that trade materialize? You know, obviously, he was coming up on being a free agent. We were preparing for that, preparing for a normal, you know, sort of meetings with Chris when free agency started. The Clippers reached out to us a little bit early and said, hey, we think it might be a win-win if maybe we could do something early, and we jumped at the chance. From when they reached out to you to the moment the deal was consummated, how long does something like that take? This one went quick. There was actually some advantages to doing it when we did it a couple days before free agency. So I think talks really picked up on Monday, and we finished the deal Wednesday, is my memory. Hey, Daryl, personally, what is the feeling like when you say go on a trade the size and scope of the CP3 deal? You know, it's big. There's so many moving parts. I think you saw that, to do the deal, we did 6 other trades that we had to do to both consummate the deal and set ourselves up with the ability to make a trade down the line with like a traded player exception type of a structure. Okay, so you got Chris Paul on the roster. This is really good. How do you feel like you're set up now to take on the Warriors, the team you talked about in the beginning? Is everyone's marking themselves against this team? Yeah, obviously they're one of the best teams of all time. I think what you really got to talk about is closing the gap. We weren't as good as them. There's no shame. I think getting better requires you to understand where you are, but we feel like the gap has been closed considerably, and we're not done trying to improve the team. We're not done trying to improve the team. So which direction can you see yourselves going? What kind of a piece do you feel like you need at this point? Well, I think, when we're winning 55 games last year, and hopefully we're trying to get in that 60-win level It's very difficult to do that. You know, you can't really add minor type pieces, so it's probably something that would be a sort of a bigger move if it happened. But unfortunately, those opportunities don't come. I think we've been trying to acquire Chris Paul now for maybe 7 years now, so you don't really know when those opportunities will come. You just have to pounce when they come along.
Okay, so Melo reportedly said, "I'll waive my no trade clause to go to either Cleveland or Houston." What did you think, Daryl, when you heard that?
Well, I saw those reports. I can't really comment on it because that's obviously New York's player. But we did see those reports.
At one point, you were the only GM who hadn't either previously been a player, a coach, or a scout. When you first broke in, how did the rest of your colleagues and peers view you, Daryl?
Well, I think they didn't know me. I think it's a little overplayed. I did play basketball and things like that, just so I wasn't a pro. But I would say, I was pretty unknown. But, I'm 11 years into it, and it's a small group, and we all more or less get along unless it's on the floor. All
right, break down how you were as a player. I saw you led Northwestern to an intramural title. Is that true?
I did win some intramural titles at Northwestern. That's a big-time claim to fame right there, So, I play like Juwan Howard, basically super dirty with a lot of mid-range shot. With a lot of mid-range shots, people will be surprised by that. So,
when you first started, analytics, I guess they were just kind of getting a foothold. How has this whole thing evolved over the last 9 or 10 years?
Well, I think early on when our owner, Mr. Alexander, really had the vision of using data to really help our decision making and bringing me in, it was a big edge. I think now a lot of those edges are eroded. There was a lot of things on efficiency on the offensive end, a lot of using data to help your defense, how you structure it to prevent high percentage shots to the other team. A lot of those simple advantages have eroded, and now we're chasing the next one.
Daryl, a lot of people give you a lot of props for what you've done. If you had to cook down your philosophy about basketball to one sentence, what would it be?
Get more USA basketball team members.
Just keep getting them. You got a couple of them.
As many as possible.
There you go. Rockets GM Daryl Morey joining us today after the Chris Paul trade, and maybe there's other things in the pipeline. Thank you, Daryl. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
And that is how you do a great interview. Meanwhile, this is how a young lady was proper bangs. Nikki and I have answered the challenge. You know who else answered the challenge? A New York Giants punter. He answered the Nicki Minaj challenge. We'll have him on after the break and see how close he and Nicki really are. Should I walk off? Did she do a walk off? Did Nicki do a walk off?
Watch me do this.
You can see Bellinger take on Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and the rest of the field Monday at the 2017 Home Run Derby. Sports Center on the road coverage begins Monday at noon, live on the field prior to the Derby at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
One man making headlines, looking to finally fulfill his dreams of playing in the NBA.
This has always been a passion of mine.
He's 61 years old. He's a grandpa. His name is Calvin.
I'm pushing myself to the max, and I believe this year, this is my year.
All right, this year is your year. I've heard that before somewhere. Calvin Roberts joins us now. Calvin, 61 years old, and you're not giving up on the dream from what I'm being told. You want to be in the NBA. So help me out. From my understanding, you were drafted by the Spurs in the 4th round back in 1980. What happened after you were drafted?
After I was drafted, I tried out, and I didn't make it, so I went overseas. Came back, got picked up by Atlanta Hawks in one of the Summer Pro League. That's why it's so important for me to get back in there. Went to the Atlanta Hawks. I did make their first summer cut. Then got picked 1 week after that to the Clippers camp, and I made their cut. So I went and decided to stay with the Clippers. The Clippers invited me back to what they called a mini camp at that time. So I went there and I participated. I didn't make it out of that camp to go to the veteran camp. So that's why I think I was so close. I mean, I felt really good that year about that, and I never did get a chance to push it a little bit further like I am now. So I'm trying to make up for what I didn't do at that time.
Yeah, no, I feel it. I hear it from you. A lot of people can relate to just being so close to a dream, being within, literally in your case, arm's length, but not necessarily being able to pursue it. But Calvin, help me out, because some folks would say playing overseas is a dream. Why was that not enough for you?
Well, for me, it's part of that dream. I still got a chance to play and see the countries, be all over the world, do things that other people hadn't had a chance to do. But my passion is to be in the NBA, and I don't think I really reached that passion. I came close, and I'm just going to fulfill it. I'm going all the way. I'm not going to stop. Just because if no one picked me up this summer league, I'm going to just keep calling them, keep pushing it. I'm not giving up until there's one team out there, all the teams out there just said, no way, we're not going to take you. But I'm just going to keep trying my best to get there.
Okay, so do you have an age limit? Do you stop when you're 65? Do you stop when you're 62? Or are you just going to pursue this until you can't pursue it anymore?
Well, it's like this. I never thought about age. It's how you feel. And the way I've been feeling and working out and exercising, I don't feel like I'm 60 or 62 or more. I feel like I'm maybe in my 30s. May look a little bit different, but I'm the one that look ahead at what's happening now, not what's going to happen later. So right now, I'm just going to take my age as it is, because everybody made it clear that I'm 61, and we'll look at it as a number and not as a physical thing. But
Okay.
I'm working hard to achieve that.
Okay, listen, some would say age is nothing but a number, and everyone made it clear, I guess you're referring to the media, that because it's an interesting story that you are 61, not giving up on your dream. I saw you there shooting around with your son. You had a little range and a rhythm to you. So I think about what I was able to see, my small little sample size. What type of team do you think you'd fit on, given your skill set and what you think you could offer?
Well, on that short, brief moment what you saw on TV, that's not all of my game. I can play inside or outside. I am a kind of a player that plays, depending on what team I play against, I adjust and change. I think I can offer a lot to a team. How long can I play? I don't know. My body right now feels really good, and I could go maybe the whole year or 2 years. I'm not sure, but right now I'm physically ready to take on any offers out there. If they want to make a closed gym session and give me a shot at it, I'll do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be the media or anything involved. That's what I started in the beginning, and I'm still giving that offer out there to any team. Pick me up. It doesn't have to be in front of the media or anybody. It could just be in a closed session at their gym, and I'm ready to play. Give me what you got, and I'm going to try to fulfill it.
All right, look, Calvin Roberts for hire, folks. He's serious about this. Last but not least, I went through the archives, and I saw that you played against Magic Johnson while you were in a summer league in college. So you and Magic, toe-to-toe, did you get the best of him?
Well, let's put it this way. Magic was mostly playing guard, but there was times where we had to play underneath or with each other and against each other. I think I held my own against him. I wish that it would have turned out a little bit better, but it was at the beginning of Cal State Fullerton playing against them in a preseason game. And I think we did really good going into that preseason game with them. I was happy about it. Magic has inspired me at that point. And up to today, I still admire him for doing what he's doing. He's constantly moving. He's constantly moving up. So he's one of my inspiration of playing, right now, giving me that dream. He gave me a dream. Other people did the same thing, like Barack Obama. The achievement that he have done, I admire him. I wish those guys could reach out and say, hey, look, Calvin, this is what I think about it. If they would get in touch with you guys and give their opinion, I would appreciate it. I mean, I'm looking for anything I can do to get into there.
I hear you, my man. Calvin Roberts says age is nothing but a number. He is for hire. Any team, he is ready. Just a workout is what we're trying to get. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you for not giving up on your dream. It is inspirational in a way in which folks need to know that you should never give up. So best of luck. You seem determined. Thank you so much for joining us here on SportsCenter Coast to Coast.
And thank you for having me.
I want to bring in David Lloyd now. David, that was an example of just never giving up on your dream. I also want to talk about how my man is serious. Like, he is deadly serious about being on a team. He's not playing. He's like, if anybody just gives me a shot. Now, David, you know, it's about how you feel. You know, you're 30, you look, 20, and you feel 15. So how does that work? Do you get a shot based on how you feel?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he looks like he's in tremendous shape, does he not? Not for a 61-year-old, for a 31-year-old or a 21-year-old. Serious kudos to Calvin. I hope it works. I mean, he's fighting against a lot of history and everything else. If Michael Jordan can't play at his age, Calvin's got an uphill road, but good for him. Good for him to keep trying.
Good man.
Right?
All right, our top 5 is coming up next.
You
know that, right?
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I am.
You know I'm beating you, right? Sports Collide. Have you heard of the Nicki Minaj challenge? I'm sure you have. Well, Giants punter Brad Wing has as well. Huge fan of Nicki, and he decided to be a part of her challenge. So a few weeks ago, he posted his own Nicki Minaj challenge in which he essentially does what she does and then said something to the effect of, half of you can't even spell 6 miles. If you follow Nicki Minaj, you'll get it. I'll explain it in a little bit. So Nicki commented because she noticed that he was a part of this challenge that was sweeping the nation. And she said, guess what? I'm gonna give you a shout out. June 30th, you're gonna get it. She's a woman of her word. So the other night she released a new song with Calvin Harris called Skirt on Me, and she name dropped Brad Wing, which is huge for athletes. Essentially, she said, I'm a land the jump. I'm trying to get you there. Yao Ming the dunk. I'm not a rapper. Slow with me. And I'm playing the field. Brad Wing the punt. David, I mean, that is poetry in motion there, David. David Lloyd, my co-anchor, I'm bringing you in here because I know you're familiar with the Nicki Minaj challenge, are you not?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm sure it's sweeping the nation. It's just sweeping right past me. But that's pretty cool that he got his name in there in the lyrics.
Because in my mind, and I know you know this as we listen to different types of music, but once an artist of note, of some fame, puts you in a song, you've really made it. One time, Iman Shumpert name dropped, put me in a song once.
Did he?
Have you ever had to, did you have someone do that to you or no? Not so much.
Lecrae did it to me for the Open, right?
Lecrae, yeah, my man.
So we're
right.
both something, right?
Let's bring in the guy of the hour, 15 minutes of fame. New York Giants punter Brad Wing joins us now. Brad, so take us back to the moment on the gram. You posted this video for Nicki Minaj. It was the challenge, and she commented. So what made you think that she was actually paying attention to you? How did you even know Nicki Minaj knew of who you were? Is there a relationship here behind the scenes I don't know about?
No, it was just as much of a surprise to me, I think, as everybody else. And then when I saw her comment saying that I was going to get a shout out on the 30th, I still didn't really know what was going on or what to expect. And then the 30th came and that song came out, and it was a very big surprise to me.
So I'm looking at it right now. Brad Wing the punt. This is serious. You are from Australia. You were an undrafted free agent. Now you're in the league. You play for the Giants. Nicki's your best friend. Punters don't always get love. Talk to me about this 15 minutes of fame. Did Odell Beckham call you and say, that's not cool, she should be talking about me? Or are people jealous of you now? Can you not return to the locker room? How's the rapport?
No, you know what? No, first of all, Odell has not called me at all. I haven't heard from him on the topic. So I'm not sure how he feels about it. But, you know, I don't know how the guys are going to respond once I get back into the locker room. Hopefully they can play that song a little bit in the locker room. I'm starting to like it a lot.
Okay, so of course you are. Now, how will you honor her when it's time for you to get back to work on the field, if you will?
I mean, that's I don't even know how to pay that back. You know, I'm such a big fan of hers, have been for a long, long time. I don't know what I can do. I know you're allowed to celebrate a little bit more this year, so maybe I can give her a little bit of a celebration shout. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, what you could possibly do, and this is just me, you could possibly dye your hair pink. You can get some bangs like me. There are a couple of things you could do that you really should research it and give her a shout out because you're on SportsCenter now and we're talking about you and Nicki in the same conversation, and this is a big deal. Yeah, right? So you got to shout her out.
Yeah.
All right.
Pink hair. I'll note that one. Pink hair. We'll see how that one goes over with the coaches.
Brad Wing.
And bang.
Giants punter, thank you so much for joining us and having a little fun with us today on SportsCenter Coast to Coast. David Lloyd, in that same honor, in that same vein, if you will, let's stick there. We're going to do shout-outs for our top 5. Can you explain to the viewers at home what it all means?
Yeah.
Our top 5?
An athlete who got name-dropped in a song, basically. And people would think you're going to have a huge advantage over me.
Uh-oh.
But I've put together quite a team here, my starting 5 here. You ready?
All right, dust your shoulders off then, my friend.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Okay.
Charlie Daniels Band, Ballad of the Uneasy Rider. Mario Andretti would have sure been proud of the way I was moving when I passed that crowd. How about that?
Uh-huh.
You like that?
Okay.
That just sets the table for number 4. Beastie Boys, Sure Shot.
Oh, nice.
I've got more action than my man John Woo, and I've got mad hits like I was Rod Carew.
Nice.
Yes. Way to go, Beasties. Number 3, House of Pain, Jump Around. You know Jump Around.
Yes, I do.
And, of course, it's Wimbledon, so kudos here to John McEnroe. I'll serve your bleep like John McEnroe. Okay?
All right. All right.
Something.
This is good.
All right.
This
Number
is really
2,
good.
Eminem. The real Slim Shady. Marshall Mathers. I'm buzzing, dirty dozen, naughty, rotten rhymer, cursing at you players worse than Marty Schottenheimer. That's from Eminem's hit, Just Don't Give a Bleep. All right. That's how we feel on Fridays. That sort of sums up our attitude on Fridays. But the seminal name drop of all time, Simon and Garfunkel, Where Have You Gone, Joe DiMaggio? A nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, David.
Thank you.
You always
Thank you
stump
very
me.
much. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you know what, David? You are the real Slim Shady. You often stump me with your history as well as your knowledge. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and try. I don't think mine is as creative, but I'll give it a schoolgirl try here. Number 5, LL Cool J. You've heard of him, right? Mama Said Knock You Out.
Yep.
Just like Muhammad Ali, they called him Cassius. What you know about that? You didn't put Ali in yours? Okay, number 4, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, Empire State of Mind. You remember this?
Yes.
If Jeezy's paying LeBron, I'm paying Dwayne Wade. He got 2 in there. Number 3, Drake, Worst Behavior. It's about Serena. I swear I could beat Serena when she playing with her left. I appreciate that. I don't think he could. Number 2, Kanye West, Can't Tell Me Nothing. This is about my main man, Magic. And you can live through anything. Magic made it. Number 1, it's a collab of different folks. And they're talking about my 2 favorites, Kobe and Jordan. Trying to get that Kobe number 1 over Jordan. You remember that Swagger Like Us? You know that one, right, David?
Yeah, that was that Jay-Z and Kanye and Lil Wayne and T.I.?
Lil Wayne and T.I., yeah, yes. Look
was
at
that
you.
2008, I think? I think it was 2008.
It was 2008. How'd you know that?
I read it right off the screen.
Brad,
hello, Brad.
Who won? You're our judge today.
I think the second list was better. I think it was, I mean, they were both very, very good. But, you know, we had a Lil Wayne reference. We had a Drake reference. And so I think that is going to be the winning list for me.
Yeah.
That is more up my alley. But both very good lists.
Simon and Garfunkel?
They were great.
What about...
Yeah, that one, I'm going to have to go look that one up a little bit.
Look that one up! Oh. Do yourself a favor, Brad. Go watch the movie The Graduate. A long time ago, but it's a good flick, and that's in there.